And I'm Jessica Bishop.
And you're listening to Through Dangers Untold, a monthly art podcast about traversing the precarious gap between art school and a professional sustainable art career. And what are we working on this week?
Okay, I'll start. This week I'm working on packing because I'm actually going to this art retreat this next week. So it's in England, which is really exciting.
Oh, nice.
What about you?
I'm also getting ready to go to LuxCon next week. So it's a fantasy art illustration conference, and I'm super excited, but also terrified.
Yeah, this is your first one.
It is. It is.
And is it your first conference?
It is. It would be my first conference.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So I guess today we'll talk about marketing and everything that you're doing to prepare for that and for everyone else that would be preparing for an event such as that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So with the conference coming up, I'm definitely thinking a lot about what I need to bring to the conference, and I'm going to be seeing a lot of art directors. I'm going to be seeing other artists, and definitely, I know, Jess, you've been to conferences before, so
Yes.
What do you recommend bringing?
All right. So I know they drill this into everyone at school, but business cards, like you should have those yesterday. Like, there's nothing worse than like talking to someone and having them be interested in talking to you more and you not having anything prepared to hand to them with your information on it.
Yeah,
Like it just creates an awkward situation.
that sounds super awkward.
It is because automatically they kind of most people will look at you as less professional all of a sudden. Like you'll lose some
really?
brownie points there.
Are you speaking from
And
experience or just observing this or?
uh I'm just observing this. I've always had business cards because I'm scared of that.
That's good.
But I've seen it and I've heard of people not having them, or I've been talking to people before in networking situations, and we all start exchanging business cards, and then there's always that one person who's like, oh, I don't have any. And we're like, well, forgot who you are already.
Oh, wow. That is not good.
It's not, and especially at these networking things, a lot of people will take the business cards and they're all the same size typically, so you keep them all together, and people even write notes on them to remember who this person is.
Nice.
So that they can follow up with them later. And if you're really into networking or trying to get jobs, I mean, this is something that's incredibly important.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I think another piece of advice for that is it doesn't have to be boring. Like, it doesn't have to be just like this plain white card. It should have your art on it. I mean, you're an artist.
Oh. Yeah, that's true. I have seen a lot of cards where it's just words and they haven't put their art on there.
Yeah, and then how can you can't identify that person then? Like what on the card, like when you're like let's say you're an art director or a hiring manager and you're going through business cards of people you met, you're more likely to look at the ones that have good art and go look at their websites than the ones that are plain.
Yeah.
Because you already see this art and you're like, this is good art, I'll go check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It's it's something so small, but it's really so big.
Not only that, but since art directors are usually artists too, a lot of them think really visually. And I think I know that I tend to remember people's art a lot of times more than I remember their faces or their names.
Oh, I do that too.
I'm like, you're that one person that does this awesome thing that I love.
Hmm.
So it's that extra visual memory with having that art on the card.
And it works the same with game developers.
Does
Like,
it?
if at least for me, I'm much more likely to remember the game someone worked on than who they are.
That makes sense.
It's because we're all visual, like you said,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and
That makes
everyone starts to blur together anyway.
Yeah, that's a lot of people to meet. That
And
makes sense.
it's people are typically way more interested in what you're creating at these sorts of conferences than who you are anyway.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So what else are you preparing? You're bringing a bunch of your pieces, right?
I am. I am. I'm bringing business cards for sure. And then I actually did a printed portfolio because I don't yet have a tablet. And I know a lot of people they just bring an iPad or whatever they have as a tablet, and I just don't have one yet. So, but I also really like seeing my work printed because then I can check and see how does this look. Is this coming through? Is this working as a print?
I
Um,
agree.
so it's nice, right? It's nice to have that physical object in your hand with your art, seeing what it looks like.
Yes. There's a certain finesse to it as well, because you can kind of play with your presentation a little bit more.
Mm, yeah.
And this doesn't work for every industry, but IlluxCon is fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's a little bit more flexibility
Mm-hmm.
where you can kind of express yourself a little bit more outside of the realm of just, this is my art on this tablet.
Yes. Yes.
While
I
in
agree.
games, that's not always to your benefit, but I feel like in fantasy art, that would be really cool.
Yeah, it does. It does seem to lend itself to a little bit more freedom, though. I mean, it's like you always have to ask yourself, am I crossing that line into ridiculousness? Am I still being
Yes.
professional? It's like you have to walk that line. Because you want to be
There
professional, but also fantastic.
there is a fine line, but I'm thinking back to your ASEN booth.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm just being like, oh, that looks so good.
Thank you.
Like, you didn't go over the top, but it still was eye-catching and felt like very sonnet, and it matched your art.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like,
And that,
it was obvious to me that a lot of care went into it. To other people, it's not really supposed to look like that, I guess. I don't think they would have thought about it too much, but
mhm.
they would still notice it. Like, and I knew how much work you put into that.
That is
Of like,
something, yeah. Now, I'm glad you said that because that is actually something I wanted to talk about. Um, there is this thing. I didn't say it in the beginning, but I wanted to say it is in that we're all learning, right? Like there are so many ways to do marketing. There are so many ways to get your work out there, and I think you really have to figure out what works for you because there's so many different ways. And one of the ways I've been following for a while is creating a customer experience. And
okay.
it's kind of in under the umbrella of branding.
Yes.
But there are a couple people that I've followed for a long time that really impressed me. Um, One, Brian Froud and Wendy Froud. Um, they early on adapted the World of Froud website and kind of created this idea that you're stepping into a different world through their art. that you are your experience of the art is kind of like an invitation into their beautiful world that they create through their sculpture and their art. And that kind of fits in with their movie stuff too that they did with Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. And I was always super impressed with that idea that it's inviting you to be a part of that. I love that. It's kind of Disney-esque almost, right? Because it's inviting you into this experience.
Yes, yeah, it's Disney-esque with less of the fluff.
Yeah, a little darker.
Less of the happy rainbow fluff.
Right. Exactly.
It's like your own... Yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying, and I love that, and I feel like you're definitely going down that path.
It's something I really enjoy, and I want to continue. And then the other thing is Black Phoenix Alchemy Labs. They're a custom perfume company. Their marketing is amazing because they make perfumes based on ideas, on books and comics and poems and even just ideas. They're amazing. They do custom perfume oils and they smell amazing. But they always send you free stuff. So it's like the first one is free. Here's all these delightful. They send you more than one. They usually send you these little tiny, like little samples, and so you get to try the perfume. So it's a great way to just be able to experience that and then go, oh, I love this perfume. This one works well on me. I'm gonna buy something. And then they have their bottles are like $25 for the bottle. And so I thought that's so great. Not only are they inviting you in with this being attached to the scent because of an idea or a literary figure that you really enjoy, so you have that attachment already. But secondly, you get free stuff. So it's like you feel really like it's a good experience. Like you enjoy being the customer for that person because they appreciate you. They give you free stuff. They want you to enjoy this experience. And that's always just really stuck in my head.
And it's like fan art in perfume form.
Well, yeah, right, it is. Because the association, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So...
No, that is cool. And I think that the whole customer experience thing, it's something that a lot of artists never think about.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that would make repeat buyers more common or more likely.
Yes.
Because you start building a relationship, however shallow it is, with your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I really like this. This is like really cool, Sonnett.
Thank you.
Now I'm like, wait, maybe I should like take this idea.
Well, you see it in people's Kickstarters, and I'm trying to do this with my own as I'm getting everything. I've ordered all my stuff. I thought a lot before I did my Kickstarter about packaging because it's that same thing, right? You want it to be enchanting. You want it to be an experience.
I love packaging.
Isn't it the best?
Yes.
It's so fun.
I love it when people like put the little fancy paper like over like their packages and like a little sticker on top or something.
Right.
Like just the cutest little, it really makes a difference.
I think so too.
I love
it.
Yeah, those little touches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm gonna get emotional. It's so cute.
It is. It's so fun. I love opening things that take that time to do that.
Well, it reinforces that the artist really cares about their work and about you enjoying their work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on a subconscious level, which makes it even cooler.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, like right now I'm struggling really hard, besides basically living in two places at once right now, um, to figure out like where I'm drawing the line between my game development and my art development, like regular art.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to figure out a way to merge them together because I hate the idea of having to separate myself. Like it feels like I'm spreading myself too thin,
Oh, interesting.
especially when like the art that I'm making for games, or well, really for my game, is not that far off from my paintings. Like it's all fantasy related. And the
Mm-hmm.
newest painting that I'm working on, like, is I'd say pretty reminiscent of the game I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
So you've given me some interesting ideas to work with now.
Oh, good.
These, which was not the point of this podcast to give me ideas,
I'm glad of that, though.
but I feel like this is very inspirational to me, and I'm sure it would be to a lot of other people, especially in school, because this is something that we talked about branding, we talked about marketing, but this is a little more in depth and personal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we never really talk about it, or at least we didn't have time to talk about it in school beyond, you know, this is your resume and your cover letter and your mailers and everything has to match, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
But there just isn't time to go in depth, and there's so much of this that you have to learn later.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
you know, we've been out of school 2 years
Mm-hmm. Just about.
or something.
Yeah, just about two
And
years.
I feel like I'm just like learning things every day still.
Mm-hmm.
And well, hopefully it'll be like that the rest of our lives. But it's, I think it's actually encouraging, like knowing that I'm still figuring things out and there's still progress.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you got
So,
your Kickstarter funded,
I did.
which is awesome. And that's another thing, just like your ASEN booth, where to an artist, it was very obvious how much time you spent crafting that.
Thank you.
Not just the book itself, but the entire Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
You like just how you had it laid out and everything matched, and it was very like you know your branding.
Thank you.
But I also think it's probably easier because I feel like your branding is just you. Very you.
That's what I'm trying to do, so thank you. I
I
appreciate
just
that.
see it and I'm like, that's such a sonnet.
I will say I had a great graphic design teacher at Columbia. Um, he was hard. He was so hard. It was a really hard class, but I was really grateful because it really taught me the basics of layout and type layout. Um, and I honestly improved a ton just being in that class. So I know not
As
everyone
a
did, but there was at least one teacher at Columbia in the graphic design department that really. There were more than one, but he was a great intro class for me for type, and that helped.
as a sidebar to that,
Mm-hmm.
I regret some of my choices at Columbia as far as classes go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was half in art and design and half in games,
Mm-hmm.
I did get to cherry pick
Mm-hmm.
my
Yeah.
classes. And looking back, I wish I could shake younger me and say, you need to take some more of these basic classes that you just don't want to take. And I'm not talking about like drawing one and 2D art because ew, no. But like typography,
Yeah.
I really wish I had sucked it up and taken that class. And probably graphic design as well.
Mm-hmm.
I took an equivalent in the game department, and I hated it. So it
Oh
just
no.
wasn't what I needed. And looking back, I'm like, well, now I need typography classes. Now I
Yeah.
need a like to go back to painting classes,
Mm-hmm.
like or graphic design classes. So it's basically any education. Like, don't like try to glean whatever you can from it
Mm-hmm.
because it will come back to haunt you later.
It does.
It's gonna come back.
You're like, oh, now I need this.
Like, some person is gonna come down and be like, I have $2,000 to give you right now if you can do this little piece of typography for me. And you're gonna be like, I don't know how to do that.
Yep.
Then you'll lose $2,000.
And that's sad.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, also, it just helps you with your own projects because you're always, I mean, if you're doing independent work at all, you're always going to be doing layout and type and, just graphic
Yes.
design stuff. You do way more of it than you expect to.
Yes, and I'm like sitting here trying to work on my own handwriting just to make it more interesting.
Mm.
For, because some people are just so good at script writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I have this really just chicken scratch.
Yeah. I do too.
Oh,
I think I had a couple
it's
teachers in
awful.
Columbia who were like, don't stop. Just don't. Don't hand letter because, oh, it's bad.
It's so
I'm so bad
difficult.
at it.
It is one of those things that you have to train at.
You do. You really, really do. I'm always super
Ugh.
impressed with people who can do it well.
Me too. Like, that's great. That's great.
Hmm.
Really jealous.
Yep. Yep.
Because it looks so much better to do handwritten words next to a piece of art or in a piece of art than type.
Hmm.
Type always looks terrible to me.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. Well, there you go.
I think that's just a personal bias.
It does look
But
really good, though.
even
You're right.
even on like book covers, I prefer it when they write the title into it. Like
Yeah.
handwritten. I'm like, this is so much better, like it flows.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that type breaks the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see that totally.
But I should probably go back off the tangent.
Well, I mean, type, it's still part of it. I mean, if you have a great hand lettering skill, then that can be part of your brand, you know?
It absolutely. We had have plenty of colleagues that do a great job. They just handwrite their own name and that's their logo,
Mm-hmm.
and it works absolutely beautifully.
It does. It does. And there's a lot of, it seems like, I mean, I don't know because I don't do it, but it seems like there's opportunities out there to use it for different things, whether it's invitations or for chalkboards. Um, uh,
Chalkboards is really big right now.
it's pretty cool. It's cool to see people getting work that way.
I like it. Greeting card companies, it's a huge industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even wedding invitations, decorators.
Mm-hmm.
Um, peop- there's people out there that handwrite those sayings on water bottles.
Oh, really?
Somewhere where they say like, I can't think of one right now. Stay cool. I don't know.
That makes sense, though. There was an artist.
Or like those fitness shirts.
Mm-hmm.
that say stupid things on them.
Yes. Those things as well.
They look cute. Someone gets paid to make those.
Yeah, which is awesome.
It is. Getting paid for art is awesome.
It is. It is. And that's what marketing is for, to try and get that. Well, and also to get your work out there.
Yes. And I think going way back, all the way back to having a portfolio ready to present,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good idea to always have several things on hand. Have your art on your phone, have it on a tablet, and because there is a chance those things will fail, like, you don't want to have to worry about charging your devices all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Print is a great backup.
It really, really is. That is good advice, Jess.
It's always have a backup.
Mm-hmm.
And always back up your computer.
That also.
Especially if you're a digital artist.
Oh, yeah. I can't even imagine. Ugh, that's super stressful.
Yes. So I have a backup always. My computer automatically backs itself up several times a day.
That's good.
Yes. I don't know how people function without that when they're artists.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's brave is what it is. Or foolish. I'm not sure which.
That just gives me stress thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Oh man. But okay, I want to bring it back because, like, being prepared, right? That's important. So I want to relate a story. I went to Salt Lake Comic Con not this year but last year, and I was super impressed by this wonderful artist that I met there. She is awesome, and she was really prepared, and I was really impressed with the fact that she brought postcards, and all the artists that she had said hello to in Artist Alley at the end of the convention, when we were all packing up, she went up to everybody that she met and had one of her postcards to give away, and you could pick between a couple of her pieces. So I had talked to other artists who were like, oh, hey, do you want to exchange work? And this was such a nice way of doing it. I was so impressed. And it was so kind, too, you know, because then you can exchange these postcards and you remember that person, and we're still friends on Facebook, and I really appreciate that a lot. And so that's something I want to do going forward, is have something that you can give to other artists that you sit by or other artists you just meet, you know, and you talk to, because that kind of creates a nice little bond. And it's just so friendly, you know. I was just excited by how friendly it was, and wanted to be as prepared.
People, especially other artists, really, really enjoy those things. My stickers.
Oh yeah, so good.
I don't even bring them out because everyone will want a sticker.
Because they're amazing.
But stickers are really good. Postcards are really good. At the conference, GDC last year, one of the indie games brought temporary tattoos that were really cool.
Oh, amazing.
It was for this game called Old Man's Journey. And it was about the main character was an old man who to like sail on a boat. So the tattoo was kind of like reminiscent of a sailor tattoo.
Oh, cool.
Yes, it was really great marketing. Because then people put the stick tattoos on and walked around with them.
Oh, that's so smart.
And then, yep. And then everyone would ask, where did you get that super cool temporary tattoo?
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes.
What a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like scribbling notes down. Like, next convention, temporary tattoos. That's
Oh,
awesome.
yours would be so cute too.
You think so? Do you think it would work?
You could do you could design it more of like a tattoo instead of a square painting like you usually do. You
Mm-hmm.
could just do like a whole fairy or some plants or
Oh,
flowers or an animal.
that would be fun.
Yeah, and then I don't think they're actually that expensive to get made. I'd have to look into it, but it's a good idea.
That is such a good idea.
But I think yours would translate well, especially after you have done all this practice with line work
Mm-hmm.
for your coloring book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is something I'm gonna have to think about.
It
So cool. What a cool idea.
is. I have to do it eventually.
That would also be amazing. Your work would also be really cool as a temporary tattoo.
Maybe just my chicken.
Especially your chicken. I want that right now.
You should just be a real tattoo
It honestly should. It's so good.
on my forehead. No, just kidding.
You're like, I am the owner of this, and this is mine.
It's okay. He's legally copyrighted.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah, I filed paperwork for it.
Excellent.
It got approved and stuff.
As you should.
So basically, my chicken is mine forever, and I can sue anyone now who takes it. I never felt so compelled until that chicken to do anything like that.
Well, and it's the name of your company too, right? Sassy Chicken
Yeah,
Games, right?
so it's trademarked as well.
Yep. So good.
Yes. Now my company just needs to release a game that
Yep.
I'm working on.
Yeah.
But that's definitely one of the things with branding that I've been struggling with because I love my chicken so much. But a lot of my art doesn't match my chicken.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so that's why I've been drifting away from it, from the chicken for all my personal things, and I've been keeping it separate from my chicken
Mm-hmm.
and just using chicken for game stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I come into feeling spread thin.
Oh, that makes sense.
But I could always just adapt my chicken to match the rest of my art so that I'm still using a chicken for both companies.
Oh, I would actually really love to see that interpretation.
I've thought about doing it before.
Oh, it would be epic.
It would be a much more realistic chicken.
It would be amazing.
It would be a little less goofy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it could be cool. So I could make a new logo that's just for me
That sounds great.
as an artist with a chicken. But at least then, like, it would make sense. Like, when people saw my games but then found out I did the rest of it, it would still match because it would still be a chicken.
Yeah, that would make sense.
These are things that just take a long time to develop and figure out.
They do. They do.
And
Yeah.
I really feel like where I was in my growth as an artist in college was not ready to make all these decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I regret my chicken. I love my chicken. But I think I I'm still at a point in my art, and I don't know if you feel like this as well, where I'm still just not quite sure where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we always have to know, because that would probably take some of the fun out of it.
That's true.
Yeah, I often, like, it's fun when people make those art memes where this is my art today and this is my art 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I love those because it's changed so much, and I like to think about, well, what's another 5 years gonna look like?
Right? Right? Yeah.
It makes me excited.
That's so
Like,
good, Jess.
what's my art gonna look like in another 5 years? I don't know. That's why I love those end of the memes where you show your art from January through December. Forgot the end of the last month of the year for a second. Because you can even see a difference between January and December.
Yes. Yes.
It's so cool. And I think every young artist should do that. Well, every artist ever, but since we're talking to younger ones.
Oh, yeah. Tracking your progress is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my portfolio finishing college, and then the next year I went back to school to visit, and I was showing the kids my art, and they didn't know who I was, and then I showed them the stuff. I was like, this was stuff from when I was in college, and they said, we know who you are now. Your art has, like, they couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just so different.
Right.
So cool.
It is. It is awesome. That makes it hard, though, right? Like you were talking about the struggle to brand yourself and market yourself. And that is tricky because you are still kind of unformed.
And I think that's the reason why when we were talking about doing mailers and branding in class, they often talked about how we should be working on branding constantly, and like the next 6 months later when you do mailers again, change it up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, refurbish the branding into just keep up with it, basically. Don't just leave it sitting there. It gets boring.
Mm-hmm.
Or outdated. And it's something like your art that's always going to have to change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So it's something that I stress out about a lot, but I maybe probably shouldn't, because it's just going to change.
That is true. That is true. And branding styles change over time.
Yes, absolutely. That's another thing. You can look at graphic design trends, see what's going to be trending the next year,
mm-hmm.
and decide on your color palette.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. Even if you just keep your eyes open, you can kind of see it, what websites are looking like, what type is showing up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right now, I guess minimalism is still really in.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's okay. It's less work for me.
It makes it really clean, which is nice. It showcases your art more.
It does. And yes, exactly. It doesn't distract from the pieces, and you really have to rely on the art itself, but then it also kind of takes away from that whole branding experience that we were just talking about.
Yeah, I think you can still work within those limitations while still trying to. I mean, if your work is more Baroque and your work is more, opulent, I think you can still set that off in a minimalist kind of way. Just by thinking about the type that you're using, the colors that you're using. I don't know. The best way that I've learned to do that is to look at people that have that kind of art and how do they market themselves.
Yep. Research.
Mm-hmm. So important.
And it's easy as just looking up the official sites of the artists that you like the most,
Mm-hmm.
which I do, and I just want to know, like, what are they doing? What's working for them?
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, if you analyze it too, like if there are things on the website that you don't like, make note of that. Because sometimes that can be a good learning experience too. Is going on a website that
Absolutely.
annoys you, you know? It's like, why does this annoy me? Why do I not like this website? What is bugging me about this? And then compare it against the things that you like and are working. You can kind of find out how to set up your own stuff in a way that's enjoyable.
We should probably do a whole episode on websites because there's so much little detail about how to make a website accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how we talked last week when we were working on the website for the podcast, and I said, I can't click on the logo and go back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Little things like that make a huge difference,
They really
especially in
do.
portfolios. Things that it's true that the art is really what matters, but you don't want to make so many little mistakes that it seems unprofessional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough one. Website, oh man, website stuff is complicated. Because it also depends on what kind of artist you are, you know? Do you have a web store? Is the focus your web store? Is the focus just your art and portfolio and trying to get commission work? You know, like, are you trying to showcase several different kinds of work?
Yes.
It's really complicated. It's super
It is,
complicated.
and I'm still trying to figure out what I actually want to put on my website.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I want my paintings on there, and the rest of it I don't know. I have a blog up there now so I can share my photography because I'm not a photographer, but I want to share it.
Yeah.
So now I have a little link to a blog with my Twitter feed,
Mm-hmm.
and but my landing page is always going to be my painting because I think that's the strongest work, and it's just about the rest of it now. And I have an external link to Sassy Chicken.
Nice.
But man, yeah, we could talk a long time about those. So we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, that sounds good. But that does fall under marketing too. Have a website.
Mm-hmm. Websites are so important. I don't like to say that social media is important because I hate it, but it is important.
Oh yeah, let's talk about social media. Social media. It's like, oh, so horrible and so wonderful at the same time. I mean, we're on social media right now. Oh,
Yes.
it's like good and bad.
It
How do you deal with social media in your art? How do you work with that?
So right now, I only have the mental strength to really deal with one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mostly focus on Twitter and I try to update my Instagram as well. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do Facebook. I hate
Understandable.
Facebook.
That is
I
understandable.
It's more important to pick a social media that you like and that matches your target audience and to just focus on that than to spread yourself too thin.
Mm-hmm.
So no to Facebook for me.
That is fine.
So I also don't do Tumblr. That's not really my thing either. So I do Twitter and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, when I'm on my regular schedule, when I'm not traveling like I am right now, I basically try to give myself only like a total maybe an hour of working on social media a day.
Mm-hmm.
it's very distracting, and sometimes, especially when you follow all other artists,
Mm-hmm.
it can get very draining because you start comparing yourself and you start getting worried.
Yep.
And I think it's more important to just get on there, respond to what you need to respond to, make a post about what you need to make a post about, share a work in progress, or just a sketch, or a finished painting, or just a quick thing about what you're working on. Anything. Because everything I've heard is that the most positive results people get is just when you post consistently.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that to be true?
If I posted consistently, maybe.
Oh. Okay then.
But to be honest, like, I'm one of those people, I go in spurts, and with everything that's like going on in life right now, like with all these traveling that I have been doing, it makes it more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely one of those people where I need to like have my space, and I have to be in that frame of mind for a long period of time to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll be there again soon. But when I was doing that a few weeks ago, I did feel like there was a difference.
Cool.
It was a small difference,
Mm-hmm.
but I noticed more people interacting with my. And I was trying to post on Instagram like once a day, and I would get like a new follower. And it's slow. It's such a slow burn.
It is.
But you can't get discouraged by it.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that it's not personal.
It really, really is.
And it's absolutely not personal whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, followers are arbitrary. You can have 10,000 followers and none of them interact with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or buy your thing. Or,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I think we do get really caught up. I know I do. You get really caught up in followers, and it can be super discouraging. Especially on Instagram.
Yes.
And I love that you brought up the comparison, because I think, it's like impossible to avoid, because you get both inspired because there's all this beautiful art, but also like super depressed. Or at least I do, because I'm like, especially if I'm like thinking of something, like right now I'm kind of in between. I have a project coming up after this one once I finish this one, that I'm really excited about, and I've been kind of fomenting for a long time, and I have all these ideas that I want to do with it, that I want to stretch my art into, do bigger and more scary things for myself, because I feel like I'm kind of safe in what I'm doing right now. But I have these ideas of how I want to take it, and then I go on Instagram and I'm like, these people are already doing this stuff that I want to do, and that's hard.
Okay.
It's so hard not to go like, right? Because you're like, oh, I have this cool idea, and then you go on and you're like, 1 million people are doing this already, and it's so hard to fight that discouragement,
It
so
is
hard. You do it anyway, right? Because ultimately that your own interpretation will be your own, it's going to be your own stew of stuff, but it's still like,
it will.
That moment,
no matter what,
crap.
It's still your own art.
Yeah, it is for sure. But yeah, it's tough. Social media is tough.
It reminds me, especially with the followers sometimes, of being, a little teenager again.
Yes.
And comparing how many phone numbers you have in your cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was something we used to do. Like, I have this many phone numbers. I have this many phone numbers.
Oh man. It's totally that.
It feels exactly the same way.
Ugh. Yuck.
It's so gross when you think about it like that.
That's really yucky.
So I think it's important to just kind of learn when you're experiencing thoughts that could be detrimental to you creating art and when to turn yourself off from social media.
Yep.
Just take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go on it for the rest of the day. Like, reflect on yourself and your own art without comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
Because comparing yourself is good to a point. You need to compare yourself to see what standard you want to be at, but you can't compare yourself and forget that you will be there one day. You're not going to be there right now, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah, that's really true. Yeah, it's easy to forget all the hours that everyone's put in to get to that point.
Because you never see the work, you just see the result.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing as when people only post happy things on the internet about their life, and all you see is the positive, which is good, but you don't see the hard work that went into getting to these positive moments.
Right. Right. It is. It's so many hours of work.
Social media is definitely a skewed perception of people and their art. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being positive on social media, because absolutely you should be positive. Like, no one wants to read sad tweets. I mean, maybe some people.
Sometimes when you're in that mood, and you need a
the Schadenfreude.
Yeah, well, some days that too. Depends.
Yeah, we all get in those moods. That's when I watch reality television.
Oh, nice. That makes sense.
It makes me feel better.
I'm
like, I could be that person.
Oh no. Yeah, you gotta find ways to get through that. Those days.
Yep.
But I want to say that social media, though, has been also super beneficial, right? It's like this
absolutely
love-hate relationship, right? Because I've met some amazing people online. I mean, obviously my Kickstarter would not have been funded had I not had such an awesome network and community on Facebook. And I was lucky enough to have lived a lot of lives and working at the Renaissance Fair in my past helped, because this is my network. These are my friends. They passed it on, and it made a world of difference. I don't think I would have done it without that, and so I'm super grateful for that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of good to be had.
There is. There, especially like you said with community, there's always a lot of support out there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for artists, and I keep in contact with my artist friends, and we support each other. We like each other's work.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to give people a boost, especially when you like people's work or retweet it. More people will see it, and it's such a stupid little button click, but sometimes it makes people's days.
It really does. It really does. And not only that, here's the gross selfish reason to do it. It's that when you do that, you're more likely to game the algorithm on the social media. Oh man, I sound
yes.
The social medias. Oh no. Yeah. When you like and you comment on other people's work, your work is more likely to get pushed to the top so that people can find you.
Yes.
So, I mean, do it because you want to support your friends, but that's the extra selfish benefit that happens when you do that.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, because we're all trying to get there. We're all trying to help each other out to try and get in front of people who want to buy our art.
Exactly. And I feel like most artists are really cool about supporting each other.
I think so. Generally, that's been my experience, for sure.
Yeah, and I just like still having a network of people from school, mostly from the interactive art and media department. But just to kind of like reach out to and have them look at my work, and you know, it without social media, I wouldn't stay in contact with these people.
Yep. I agree.
Especially when we're all kind of like moving around the country, moving out of the country. We can keep up with each other. And it's awesome. Like, I'm more social with my friends now that I'm far away than I was. Absolutely. Like, we're doing this podcast. I do video game book club as well.
Awesome.
And it's great. So as much as I love to hate on social media, I use it all the time.
I know, right? Me too. I do too. And it's nurtured some good friendships, you know? So,
exactly. It does. It really does. Well, we managed to kill an hour already.
We did, and we haven't even talked about fan art, and I promised fan art on the on my promotion today.
Well, I think that's okay because we did want Vicky to be here. Vicky was not able to make it tonight.
Yeah.
And I think we both think that Vicky would be a valuable asset to that conversation.
Yes.
As someone, because we don't really do fan art, but Vicky does.
Yes. And
so it's kind of hard to have
we're like, we
a conversation about something we don't do.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. And we missed Vicky tonight for sure. She is attending an awesome event at Columbia College today where they are releasing their first ever illustration annual, and that's just so cool.
Woo!
So congrats to her for getting into that, and to all the other wonderful students who got their work into that. That's just awesome. So
Yay!
Cool. So yeah, we definitely miss her.
Yep, and we'll be back next month.
Yes.
And we'll continue this conversation about marketing with Vicky, and we'll bring up the fan art.
Yeah. Do we want to move fan art to next month and just go ahead and do that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's definitely do that. So we'll be podcasting on November 8th, and we'll be talking about fan art. And
yes, we will.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Let's do this.
Okay.
I want to say our logo was created by Karen Hodo, and you can find her online at kmhododesigns.com. And Jess, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JRUBishop. Just my initials and my name.
Nice. And you can find me at sonnettshelline.com or at Sonnett Shelline on pretty much everything. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you have a lovely month.
Good night.
Good night.